It's alright.
Oh my god!
Yo guys, what is up? Moxsy on Borderlands 3 video, and today we are finally showcasing my clone Zane build. Now, a lot of you have been asking me for a clone Zane build. Today, I'm showcasing how I would play it and how over the past few weeks I've been playing clone Zane and really enjoying this build. Clone Zane is extremely strong and a lot of fun to play, and I hope you guys enjoyed the build and the video. If you do, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And with that, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so showing on the screen right now is the skill tree. And it's going to look a little bit weird. I'm going to explain the points real quick, but super happy with the decisions. I've tried a lot of different builds, and I'm really happy with this one. Now, real quick, the reason I have 3 points into Violent Violence is I'm actually getting 5. I have class bond points into there. Your class bond will be spec'd into Violent Violence, Playing Dirty, and Donnybrook. Now, you want to have 5 out of 5 into both of these skills. So with the class bond, have 5 total, and as many points into Donnybrook as you can. Donnybrook is awesome because it's going to give us gun damage for both us and our digiclone. So this out of those skills is the best for us, but you're going to want to have all of these skills maxed. Now, we're going to talk about the skill tree, and then we're going to talk about the weapons. This build, you can use any weapon, but there are some specific ones that I really enjoy. But first off, green tree. Now, there are 6 floater points with this build. Floater points meaning that our blue tree and our red tree is core to this build. You need these points. These points into green tree, you can put wherever. Now, I put them down to brain freeze because when we're using the weapons that we're using, which is mainly multi-pellet weapons, things like the light show, things like the sandtalk, things like the anarchy, we are able to freeze enemies very quickly because we have brain freeze. When we crit enemies, they're going to get slowed and frozen. This allows us to use non-cryo weapons to freeze enemies and is really nice to have. Ready for action is a nice quality of life thing because it's going to give us recharge rate and delay. And because we're not using barrier, our shield is very important for staying alive, but we're mainly here just to get our brain freeze. Next up, blue tree. Now, pretty standard blue tree. Violent speed for more movement speed, violent momentum for more gun damage. The faster we move, the more damage we're going to get. 1 point into salvation. Lifesteal is what is keeping us alive here, and clone aggro, but mainly lifesteal. 1 point here is more than enough. You can go through the entire slaughter shaft, entire guardian takedown without ever going down with just this. We're going to be doing so much damage, and with how much damage guns do on Mayhem 10 and how little our health bar is, 1 point here will keep you alive just fine. Death falls close, definitely good to have. Cool hand for that reload speed. Violent Violence for a fire rate. Zane's fire rate can get crazy. Violent Violence is awesome. And Playing Dirty is going to add an extra projectile. Now, Playing Dirty isn't super important when you are using multi-pellet weapons, but we are going to be using some non-multi-pellet weapons for other things, so it's just a nice thing to have. Good Misfortune is allowing us our action skill to stay up indefinitely because with the Seeing Dead comp, we're going to constantly be proccing this, giving us more duration back. And then Seeing Red. Seeing Red, you do not need for this build, but it is really nice to have because we have Seeing Red. When we go into a boss fight, we can put our clone down. All of our kill skills are going to proc, and then our clone can just shred whatever. We don't have to build up all of our kill skills, so I really do like having Seeing Red here. Next up, red tree synchronicity here, and Donnybrook very standard Premunitus for the magazine size. And now the weapons that we're going to be using mainly like the light show and the sandhawk, the anarchy. There's a bunch of weapons. I'll talk about them when we get to the weapon section, but having magazine size here is nice. We're going to be using borrowed time for our action skill duration. Duct Tape Mod. Now, we are not putting any points into fractal frags. Our clone is going to be doing a crap ton of damage. When our clone is throwing grenades, it is not using its guns, and it does no damage with grenades. We're not going to get good use out of these grenades, and I want it to be shooting all the time. The person who showed me this trick was Thick Fillet, who is an awesome Zane player. His channel will be down below in the description. Definitely check him out. He taught me not to put points into fractal frags. Next up, Duct Tape Mod. First shot fired from Zane's gun always has a chance to fire a grenade. This skill has a short cooldown. This is what we're using instead. This will allow us between the 15-second cooldown of Drone Delivery and Duct Tape Mod to always keep up our grenade anointment. Quick breather. It's just nice to have. Clone healing. Keep our clone nice and healthy. Never has to die. Old you, nice to have. You're not going to go down, but it is nice to have just in case you do. Pocket full of grenades we're using because we are using Boom Enhance. This is more than enough grenade regeneration, just 1 point here, for because we're not spamming our clone out. We're not using it for ASEs. Pocket full of grenades is plenty. Supersonic Man, going to synergize with our movement speed and our damage. And lastly, double barrel. Lastly, we're using Doppelbanger and this Schadenfreude. Sorry. This is going to restore our shields. And Doppelbanger, while our clone is going to last forever, sometimes that can be annoying when you want to move your clone around. And if you go to a different area, you can just blow up the clone and resummon it. Super nice, but we're not really using ASE anointments. And then Sentinel. Now, for the guns and the gear and the equipment, guns and gear. So, the best weapon that I've tried using on this build is the Sandtalk. Now, I do not like using the Sandtalk for myself. I like giving the Sandtalk to my clone. Now, we obviously do a lot of damage with the Sandtalk, but the clone gets unlimited ammo with the Sandtalk, and it shreds with it. Clone will one-shot badasses, will one-shot anointed enemies with a Sandtalk. Now, the anointments that you can get on your Sandtalk will not benefit your clone, so I use Sentinel Cryo ones, and because the clone cannot fire full auto the Sandtalk, you're going to be looking for a Burst Sandtalk. Burst Sandtalk will have higher damage, and you're going to use Sentinel Cryo on it so that when you're using it, you're going to get damage, and your clone will also be benefiting, not from Sentinel Cryo, but just from having a good Burst Fire Sandtalk. The weapon I like running around with on this build is the Light Show. Now, I use a Sentinel Cryo Rad Light Show. This thing shreds. You can give the clone the Light Show. The clone works extremely well with the Light Show, and I'll either be giving it a Light Show or the Sandtalk for most of the time that I'm playing. Now, these weapons both work extremely well. Definitely recommend. There are a lot of other weapons that work on Zane's clone. The Anarchy is one of them. Anarchy, the clone can stack for you because when it gets kills, you can stack the clone. And right now, the Anarchy is in a little bit of a weird spot where if you actually shoot and reload it instantly, you're actually going to get stacks of your Anarchy. So it's super easy to maintain stacks, super easy to use the stacks, and your clone is going to be able to benefit from the stacks that it has on its Anarchy, making the Anarchy an awesome choice for the clone. Another awesome option is the Backburner. Now, we'll talk about the Backburner in a second, but big shoutouts to a few strange weapons that are really good on this. The Ember's Purge does environmental damage, and when you give the environmental damage, which is getting Mayhem scaling, which is times 12 to the clone, the Ember's Purge works really, really well on the clone. It shreds bosses. The Beacon is a super cool weapon. Now, I like the Beacon on the clone. I don't love the Beacon. That is why I respect some points that the magazine says. The Beacon is an awesome option, but I don't really prioritize using it that much. Another crazy weapon is the Grease Trap. Now, the Grease Trap has two firing modes, and I've made a video on how the Grease Trap works in co-op, but when you're shooting hot grease and someone's shooting Firestarter at the same time, you're going to get crazy explosions. This is one of the highest damage weapons you could use on the clone because you're going to be spraying hot grease and the clone is going to be spraying the Firestarter, and it melts everything. Unfortunately, you cannot get a Grease Trap anymore, so that's why I didn't really want to talk about it too much because it's a weapon from the cartel event. You can't get it anymore, so if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Just use Sandhawks and just use Backburners and Light Shows. You'll be fine, but it is a cool weapon that you can pretty much only use well on Zane. You can't use it well on any of the other characters, so I wanted to point that out. For our skills and gear, so there's a few things here that you can shift around. I'm using its Piss on grenade throw, action skill damage. This is just nice to have that debuff. When it happens, you'll notice instantly that you're going to be doing more damage. For your shield, I will either run two things. I'm either going to be running a Transformer with like an ASE, or I'll be running a Old God with Sentinel Cryo. Now, because we're using Sentinel Cryo kind of as our main anointment, Sentinel Cryo is going to be benefiting us, and an Old God is going to give us bonus cryo or increased cryo damage. Super nice to have. And then the Sentinel movement speed is only going to give us more movement speed and more damage. I really do like this anointment and this setup. But the Transformer is also really good. The reason the Transformer is so good is because when you're wearing the Transformer, the clone gets the Transformer, and then the clone won't kill itself when it's using the back burner, when it's using a shock anarchy, a beacon. You can give it the root and it won't kill itself. The clone killing itself can be an issue, and so if you are running into that issue, definitely use the transformer. I wasn't really having my clone kill itself at all when I was using the light show or the monarch, or sorry, the light show or the sandhawk, but I was having issues when I was using anything like the root. So transformer is an awesome option, but it is not necessary for this build. Now, for our Seeing Dead, the most important thing you could have here is action skill damage. I have Hyperion weapon critical. We're not using any Hyperion weapons, so that's a wasted roll, but splash damage is nice, gun damage is nice, magazine size is nice, specific weapon crits can be nice, but splash damage is going to be really good, and action skill damage is going to be really good, and as many points into Donnybrook as you can get. Lastly, we have our artifact. Now, you can use the pearl. The pearl is really good for us. The pearl will not benefit your clone. Your artifact will not benefit your clone. However, the pearl is great for us when we're using things like the light show, which is the main weapon that I run around with. However, the icebreaker victory rush is honestly, if you have a really good rolled one, something like this is going to be a better option because you can get rolls like area of effect damage. This one, I've got SMG damage, magazine size, and area effect damage, which is super, super nice. And I've got the verse frozen. It just adds a lot more utility and is overall better than the pearl. But unless you have a really good one, I would use the pearl. If you have a really good one, use that. But if you don't, use the pearl. Both are great options. You could even put on a snowdrift here to slide faster, but we've got so much movement speed. Lastly, modifiers. Now, I've been running, these are just some random modifiers, but Speed Demon, High Voltage Laser Ferret, Roguelite. Now, I haven't died on this build, so Roguelite's been fine for me. However, if you have old you can't use it with Roguelite. You don't get to cheat Roguelite, so it's kind of a waste to spec into it if you're going to use Roguelite. So I recommend using things like Buddy System is always nice to have, but you can get away with Roguelite on this build because your survivability with your fire rate or your reload speed is going to be great. That is it for the build. One weapon I forgot to mention is the root. Root is really, really strong on this build as well. Now, that is it for the video. I hope you guys learned something new. I hope you enjoyed it. It's not anything like groundbreaking. I'm not doing anything too crazy here. I just wanted to show you guys how I've been playing Clone Zane because I know some of you are curious. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.